Well, for now, let's turn our attention to the personal finance segment. Hemant Rustagi of Wiseinvest Advisors is our expert for the day. Hemant, almost every person in India owns at least one LIC policy, and they go by various names, whether it's called a Jeevan Anand or a Jeevan Dhara and so on. But could you tell us the broad contours under which all these policies are divided, and what are the characteristics of each, and what kind of a risk profile are they suited for?
Well, I think there are a variety of LIC policies which are, offered by the corporation. To begin with, you have these endowment plans. These are the plans which basically, offer the insurance cover to the insured for a certain period, now which is called the term of the plan. If the insured survives that period, he gets the, some lump sum money which is called the sum assured. And if he does not, the nominee gets the money. These are typical traditional plans which combine the features of investment as well as insurance. Now, these are generally preferred by those investors who do not like any kind of volatility in their return, and to ensure that they do not have any volatility in the return, they are even willing to sacrifice a part of the income. Now, what happens in these plans, they are typically offering very low return, but the returns are guaranteed, and the money which is received by the policy holders at the end of the term is generally used for, taking care of certain long-term goals. But as I mentioned earlier, the returns are low. Sometimes, most of the time, in fact, I would say that the policy holders struggle to beat inflation over the longer term. Now, some of the examples here in this category are Jeevan Mitra, Jeevan Amrit, and Jeevan Anand. Then you have whole life plans. As the name suggests, these are the plans which basically provide insurance cover for the entire life of the insured, which means that there are no survival benefit. When the insured dies, the nominee gets the sum assured and also the bonus or the profit, as the case may be. And there are certain unit-linked endowment plans. So a whole life plan, what happens there is the nominee gets the sum assured or the value of the investment, whichever is higher. Now, there are some plans offered by LIC where if the insured survives till the age of 80 or he completes 40 years from the date of commencement of the plan, he gets the sum assured. In fact, even in the plans where this provision is not there, there is a facility for the policy holder to withdraw some money or take a loan against the cash value of the plan. The cash value is basically the accrued, bonus or profits on the premium which is already paid. Here, the example you can look at is basically Jeevan Anand, which is basically a combination of endowment plan as well as a whole life plan, and also there is Jeevan Tarang. Then you have money back plans. These are plans again which offer insurance cover for a fixed period. But during this term, the insured gets a fixed amount which is tax-free at a pre-decided interval. If he survives the entire term of the plan, then he gets the residual amount of the sum assured. And if he dies during this term, then basically the nominee gets the entire sum, irrespective of how much amount has already been paid, plus the bonus or profit which are there. Now, some of the examples here are Bima Bachat and also I think Jeevan Surabhi. The only difference here is that these plans, the premium is higher than as compared to endowment plan or a term plan. Then there are annuity plans. Now, these are annuity plans which entitle a policy holder to get a regular income after a certain period. Now, what happens that in the accumulation stage, the policy holder keeps on depositing money, and when the disbursement phase comes, then he gets regular income by way of annuity. And the example here is a plan like Jeevan Dhara. So these are traditional plans which are offered. Of course, as like any other investment option, they have their pros and cons. So investors have to be very careful in terms of which are the plans they should have and also how much exposure they should have. As I mentioned earlier, most of these offer low return. So for someone who's looking at building up a corpus, he has to be careful in terms of exposure level.
Okay, explain the bonus element also. A lot of confusion happens because of this bonus element and bonus reversion. Could you explain how, could you just simplify all these bonus related terms to us?
Yeah, sure, Lata. I think to begin with, we have this simple revisionary bonus. So these are the bonuses which are declared on a regular basis. Generally, I would say maybe once in a year, and they are declared as a percentage, and they are basically then calculated on the sum assured. And so this is the simple revision. There are in fact two ways how it is paid. One is simple, second one is compound. And in that case, it's again applied to the sum assured as well as on the accumulated revisionary bonus, which is already accumulated over.
What is the percentage of bonus normally, Hemant? When we compare the returns on from an LIC policy or from any insurance policy with, say, PPF plus term, the big problem is how much money to or what percentage do we attribute to this bonus?
Well, generally, overall, if you look at the entire term of the plan, most of these plans end up giving you around 6 or 7% return, which includes basically everything. So, that's what, as I mentioned earlier, especially for someone who is, looking for investing for a longer term. But the problem is that there are many investors who do not want to take any risk. So I'm saying that there is definitely a place for all these, but definitely one has to be very clear in terms of how much exposure you want to have to these plans. So as I was mentioning about revisionary bonus, once it is declared, it becomes a part of the guaranteed benefit of the plan. So definitely the policyholder will get it over a period of time. Then you also have the final additional bonus. Now these are basically, declared for with profit plans, especially the ones which have a maturity of 15 years or more, and is paid at the end of the period. Now what happens is that typically the insurer will create a reserve fund to take care of any unexpected liability that may come. But if the experience is good at the end of the period, what the insurer does is he distributes the reserve surplus as this additional bonus to the policyholders, which is paid at the end of the term. Then you also have loyalty additions. Now these additions are slightly different from bonuses, so the policyholder should not confuse these two. Now what happens is the policyholder becomes entitled to these additions only after they have paid a minimum number of premium, and the quantum also depends on how much premium has been paid, including the case of even in the case of death. So there are certain plans where both the loyalty additions as well as the bonuses are paid. Then there is also guaranteed addition. Now there are certain plans where LIC pays a guaranteed addition or a guaranteed bonus, which is called a guaranteed addition, which is paid at the end of the term, and this is paid irrespective of the performance of the corporation. Now this is paid either at the time of the maturity or at the time of death of the policyholder, whichever is earlier. So these are the kind of bonuses or additions or profits that are declared by different LIC policies.
Well, I think Rima wanted to know if the 6 or 7% ultimate return that you're talking about in most of the insurance-heavy policies, is that taxed?
No, these are tax-free.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for that clarity, Hemant. My perennial crib with all policies, insurance policies, is that look at the number of things that Hemant is talking about. It makes it impossible to find out what exactly you are making on it, provided you survive. And what is more important, the names are so misleading. Why are the advertisements so inadequate? I mean, it's just something like Anand Hi Anand, Jeevan Anand, or Sar Utha Ki Jio. Damn it, why don't you tell us what the policy is all about?
For instance, Jeevan Anand comes in both endowment and in the whole life plan.
I mean, there should be a law against this. I guess that is the next phase for which we should take this personal finance show. Okay, for the moment it's only a break. We have a lot of viewers queued up with questions and perhaps complaints like Rima and I have. Back in a minute. Right, we have a caller on this insurance mumbo jumbo. Gopal Charit from Mumbai calls us. Gopal, go ahead, shoot your question. Gopal, you can hear me? Okay. Gopal, I just will have to read your question out. We are not able to hear you. How much amount will I get back if I surrender an LIC policy? I think you don't have adequate data, don't you, Hemant? Can you answer that question?
Well, I have some more details.
Okay.
He owns an LIC policy, Jeevan Tarang, for the last 3 years. He says, I hear many people advising it's preferable to go for an online term plan. Since I have already completed 3 years, should I surrender the policy? I have paid 10,000 premium per annum for the last 3 years. How much money will I get back, and what should he do? That's the question.
Hemant?
Well, I think Jeevan Taranga, as I mentioned, earlier in the show, that this is basically a whole life plan, which is a traditional investment plan. Typically, what happens is a combination of investment as well as insurance. The term plan, on the other hand, is clearly a pure risk cover, these are two entirely different products. And this is where I think most investors go wrong, is when they look at buying a policy, They want a package, basically, which means that they should get something at the end of the day, end of the term. So I think investors need to realize that when you're looking at a risk cover, make sure that you have adequate risk cover, which is where I think a term plan will definitely play a role. And yes, if he goes for an online plan, it is going to be even cheaper. So what happens is when you go for a term plan, you get higher risk cover, which is what you may be needing. And on the investment side, if you really separate that and look at options like mutual funds, especially when you're investing for a time horizon of 15, 20 years, I think with the same amount of premium that you're paying for a traditional plan for a cover of 5 lakh, you can actually bifurcate into a higher, risk cover by way of term plan, and the remaining money, if you invest in, mutual funds, balance or equity funds over a period of 15, 20 years, I think he can get much better result there. If he surrenders his policy, what happens, because you paid 3-year premium, he will not get anything for the first year. For the second and third year premium, he'll get only 30%. But I still feel that if he has another 17 years to go, it may still be worth it to book some loss and do it the right way as a combination of risk cover by way of term plan and also looking at investment through mutual funds.
All right, Hemant, that's very useful advice. Thanks so much for joining us. And here's a note to all our viewers.